Leon Bosman, dude, nice to be on the show, dude. How are you?
Mr. Joe, great new, bud. Thanks for having me, man. Great to be here. Great to have a bit of a chat. Long overdue. Long overdue.
Very, very, very long overdue. Very long overdue. I'm a big fan, dude.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And likewise. I've been loving the podcast and all the people you've been chatting to. It's great to see a little bit of a new theme going on. I like it.
We were just trying to, lockdown. That's like 2 weeks into lockdown, dude. I was pulling my hair out. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was talking to Brett from Rockford Fastgate the one day. Because I've been listening to podcasts for ages. Especially when I do long, it's the best thing if you do a road trip. Okay, it's guys don't understand it. I mean, I left Joburg the one day. And I was shooting the last season. I was shooting season 3 of Road Trip. Man, I did like 7,000 kilometers in 2 weeks.
Wow,
when I shot that show.
That's some road tripping, huh?
Yeah, dude, it was hectic. And so I left Joburg in the morning, and I mean I live out Mossel Bay, my George side, and just before I stop at the first. You got to do Wimpy on a road trip. It's a rule. Yeah, you cannot. So I'm at the Wimpy. It's rites of passage. Yes, it means that you're on a road trip. Okay,
that's it. It's officially a road trip now. We stopped at Wimpy.
Exactly. So I'm sitting in the Wimpy and I'm going through everything, and I pick a podcast on one of Joe Rogan's podcasts. Now his podcast is like 2.5, 3 hours long sometimes, depending who he's talking to.
Yeah.
And I put this podcast on, and I'm driving and I'm listening to it. It was fascinating conversation. It was to do with a guy that's suffering from PSD in the US and how they're using MDMA as a treatment. Absolutely fascinating. So I'm driving and I'm listening to this, and the next thing, the podcast comes up and everything. My wife phones me and she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh fuck, wait." I was like an hour away from home.
Wow.
I got so wrapped up in the I mean, obviously you're concentrating on your driving and that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
You get so wrapped up in that conversation, and that time just flew. I did not. I mean, like I said, a few hours later, 2 hours later, I was at home.
And Joe Rogan, I mean, that's a good way to go. I mean, that dude's been growing phenomenally over the years. Insane.
Yeah, he's just got 100 million, getting paid out 100 million from Spotify to move over to Spotify.
Crazy good.
Buy a few cars, Yeah.
You could put a nice garage together. Dream Garage 101. Get a podcast.
So I'm sitting there one day and I'm talking to Brett and I'm like, maybe I should, because I was talking to some guys overseas as well, and he's like, well, so I'm thinking of doing a podcast. He's like, I can just go for it. Let's do it. And that's why I had him on as the first one. And I did not expect the feedback as it is. I just think we're losing. I was talking to guys the other day. We're losing that conversation part,
Yeah.
It's one thing seeing an ad or advertorial. I mean, I do magazines, I do everything. You go shoot something, and you're trying to explain a product, but you can only get it to a certain point,
Yeah.
But now you get this guy who is completely obsessed. I mean, this has been his baby for 25 years. He's worked with this company, and he loves this product, and that part I love.
Yeah.
That conversation.
It's like an interview I had last week where I was chatting to one of the BBC or ITV presenter that side, Lucy, and I told her, and I told her, for me the really fun part with getting behind those type of characters is as much about the product, but the backstory as well. Like I was listening to the previous podcast you had with the guys from Aeromotive that do the fuel pumps and the fuel delivery systems.
Fascinating is that?
That guy they've been around for years. And then there was the guy you chatted to from Woolwood, also another great interview. I mean, that's like that dude's been with the company since they pretty much opened. It's insane.
Exactly, exactly. And you're getting this completely different, because you see a brand and you've got this idea in your head of how they are, and maybe we can blame TV. That you think that Woolworths like stock industries in the US and they're enormous and they've got billions of dollars and this,
Yes.
and then it turns out it's like, no, we're like fucking 20 guys, we like fool around with cars the whole time.
There's a handful of guys, and they got a couple of tractors out back, and they're just chilling. They're just enjoying what they're doing.
my biggest, the funniest one to me was the Ring Brothers. I did not expect that with those. I mean,
I love their cars.
I thought it was like Rides by Troy, this high executive Formula One looking workshop where they build these
clean,
bunch of rednecks live on the farm, joking about everyone's related because of inbreeding. I was grinning myself. It was funny, man.
I love it. I love it. That's what we need. So, that's what we need. More of that.
Exactly. Now tell me what you've been busy with. You've let's go just so guys know. So you've got a show. You had a show on Ignition, Solar Machine, which is brilliant.
So Solar Machine, that's like a brainchild of mine that started actually many years ago, and it changed brand names a couple of times, but it was always just a slogan of something, and then I kind of really just was looking for a good identity for the YouTube channel, because I've been doing a lot of stuff now, obviously with Ignition. I was on TuneIn SA, so I had a segment on there with all the stuff that I was doing. And photography before that, and I was even into building cars and tuning cars, and I went down that whole road. I've been there for many years, and so I just wanted really to put a channel together that identifies, first of all, everything that I'm passionate about, which is cars, bikes, and pretty much anything in between that touches that. So that's kind of like the direction that I'm moving now. So it's been busy, and I've been able to work with a lot of cool brands, a lot of cool motorcycle brands, a lot of cool car brands, and I just want to create like a really cool platform that everyone can just share in the stories that I have to tell, because I love telling the stories,
But that's what I love about it. I mean, look, when I started the magazine, I got involved with the biking side as well. But the biking is a whole different mess or like machine on its own, just dealing with everyone on that side. And that's what I love about you. I mean, you really do just bring a little bit of everything in there. It's a little bit of bikes, bit of muscle car. I mean, you did Nick's Pantera, you did the Camaro. I saw the Camaro was in there. Oh, that Pantera is just beautiful, hey. Nick's Camaro, I mean, the amount of times my ass have sucked to that seat while I'm in the car with him on that thing. Because he used to literally live like a block away from me, and every time he was heading to the pub, I would like walk
him. You know that's Nick. You know that's Nick. No, I must say that Camaro I really enjoyed. I love it at a manual. It's kind of a resto mod, but it also kind of isn't. Like everything underneath is
that's
upgraded.
The first LS car in the country.
Really? Didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Car was built by Mike Egan. Mike Egan, Rocket 88, when he had it. That was the first, I think it's the first LS motor that they was put into any car in South Africa. And so that thing got proper history behind it.
Yeah, and it handles well, it goes well, it stops well, and it still retains some of the old, the nostalgia that these cars come with. I was talking in the video that I just posted last week with Ralph C10 from Motown, and every time I get into these old classics, it's just this feeling of like a childhood nostalgia, like that familiarity. You don't know where you know it from, but you know it. And I don't know if it's maybe because my dad used to have an old straight six Valiant Regal, the old Valiants. He had one of those.
Yes, I had one of those.
Oh man, and I remember driving in that car. It's the biggest boat ever, but it's like a sense of goodness,
But now you're doing the Porsches. I mean, you did that Porsche. I think we had it on the cover, the one from the archive, the Outlaw.
Oh, you're talking about the Martini one, the one from the Martini one, the RSR replica.
That's just sex on wheels. Yes, that thing is hot.
That's Peter's car. Absolutely amazing machine, that thing, you know. And what's very interesting about that car is the people that originally got the project going. There was a bunch of people that actually flew to the Porsche Museum in Germany, spent 3 weeks measuring the original one to make it like a millimeter to millimeter exact replica of the original RSR. And that's what makes that car so special, I think, you know. And obviously, look, the motor that he built, that thing's the basic setup and was conceived in the States, and then locally was put together here. But man, it's limited to 550 horsepower to keep it like period correct. But that thing does like 800 or something ridiculous. But that thing moves forward there. I tell you, mind-blowingly fast.
That's the only when I made this idea to move to a small town. Obviously I've got journalists that now run around to do the photo shoots, and this is the worst part of it, is the fact that I don't get to drive and everything that is out there.
That experience, that's what counts. So. It's that whole visceral experience, you know, like it's hearing the loud fuel pumps, it's smelling the fuel, it's, you know, oh, this clutch is actually pretty tight to push in, you know, but that's part of the journey. And I think that's what I miss. You know, I had a discussion with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about, he's like, oh, do you like classics or do you like new cars? So I say, well, it's difficult. I like analog cars. I like cars that speaks to the driver. You know, it's not just about getting in, plugging in your iPhone and just driving down the road with a paddle shift. You know, it's cars that's engaging to drive. There's a lot of new cars that have come out that, despite the use of the paddle shift or the dual clutch systems, they are pretty much still engaging to drive. One of my favorites is the GT3 RS. A super engaging car to drive, really? Even with the paddle shift. Yeah, you still get that mechanical feel, that mechanical grip. But then you drive.
Doesn't feel all electronic the whole time. You know?
No, I mean when the car's cold, you can hear the diff whine. It's mechanical. It's grinding away. You can hear the oils are warming up. So I think that's something that I really enjoy, especially from that brand, you know. Then you get the really refined cars that, you know, everything just wafts along. You know, I remember doing a Bentley Bentayga diesel a while ago. I mean, dude, this thing is like a 4 million rand SUV, 900 newtons. It's got a seat massages. It's got a Breitling watch in it. You know, it's that thing. You just sit back and you like relax. And I never forget, I brought the car home for my wife just to like sit in and test. And she got in the seat and she's like, oh, feels the seat. And she's, you know, it's got that seat massages. And it's like 13 different modes. And she's sitting and she says, can't we get one? I'm like, are you crazy? Do you know what this thing costs? I said, I can't even afford the seat. What are you talking about?
Struggling with the fuel. Can you imagine buying the thing? No. Man. But that's the love with motoring. I mean, look, I'm the same. I'm so torn these days. Before lockdown, the last car I test drove was the Outlaw 356 at Creative Rides.
Very cool car.
And I get it. Yeah, very cool car. And I drove that thing. And look, it's a Beetle, but I fell in love with it. I really fell in love with it. You know, and so I've driven Ferraris, Porsches, Lambo. I mean, I've been in so many different cars, and you can never compare them. You can't put a 69 Mustang against a 2019 Mustang. You can't. It's two completely different.
No,
it's a different world, you know.
No,
and to me, as much as I know Jimmy Price and them are busy with it now. They're busy with it where you can buy, I think it's a 67 Mustang, but it's running a 2017 running gear suspension and that type of stuff.
Yeah,
and I kind of get that, but it's going to take it away from a Mustang at the same time. What a 67 Mustang was, you know?
Yeah,
so
100%.
I'm torn because I'm torn between that and then electric motors coming in, which I think is a great idea. I know the guys are gonna hate me for saying this. Like the 2.3 Mustang, I think is a brilliant idea. I love the concept of it. I know it doesn't scream like the V8, and there's no no substitute for cubic inches and that type of stuff. But it kind of makes sense, from a
catering for a crowd. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's just, it's I think you got to look at motoring, or you need to look at cars, and then you need to look at the world and where the world and technology is going. I mean, think about it. Basically, your argument is like, I'm not using an old Nokia. A Nokia 2110 was awesome because you could kill someone with it. Okay, so the technology of the need to regain. Yeah, we need to regain the style and the heaviness and size of the Nokia 2110 with your new iPhone, because that was the basics,
Exactly.
To me, that's kind of the argument that we're having at the moment with the V8. Okay. Technology's changing. The world's changing. We had the guys, Chris and them, on, and they said the COVID showed us the impact that we have on the world. Yeah. Okay, it literally showed. And I do not want to sound like, I don't want to sound like a fucking hippie or anything like that. Even though my wife just keeps buying me hippie pants because they come. But you kind of have to look and go, okay, well, fuel, fossil fuels and all this type of stuff. These things are making an impact. Maybe we do need to look at something going forward. Maybe there is a different alternative going forward. So I don't know. It's just it's a struggle.
It's very much a toss-up. I think there will always be this balance. I mean, I think the purists in us want something that's got cogs, that's got a pedal, that's got gas going through it. That's part of who we are. It's why we do what we do. I do think that a lot of the companies out there still are catering for that. So I don't think it will entirely fall away. But there is this resurgence of a lot of, even the tuners overseas are starting to lock onto things. I spoke about it last week briefly, but there's a guy called BC Motor Engineering in the States, and he took an old a Porsche 935 kind of look over, like a chassis top, and he built a whole electric drive and an e-motor into this thing, and the guys from Hoonigan were out driving it, and Larry Chen was out driving it. And it just shows that even the tuners that, I mean, this comes from somebody who had the world record for the fastest 4-cylinder, in the world on the quarter mile in America, So, and moving into that. So the guys do understand that they need to embrace something that's a little different. But just touching on what you said earlier on, like the analog versus the digital that we're talking about, I got very much the same thing from a lot of YouTube reviews and a lot of companies that, especially in the motorcycle world, there's so many companies that obviously one company will bring out a heritage model, the next company brings out a heritage model, and then people try and compare it, which I can see why. And I use as an example the BMW R9T versus the Triumph Thruxton R. Now, both are heritage bikes, but both are totally different. I got on the R9T, it's a muscle bike, it's a big engine at the bottom, it reminds me of a muscle car in many ways, but it still handles, it's got nice power. It's great in the city, it's great for cruising, but it's not something that you would think, okay, like, I don't know if I would take this to the track really. But then you get on something like the Triumph Thruxton R, which has got a sport front end. You leant over forward. It's a bit of an uncomfortable in the city to ride. It's not nice between the robots because you get all that, all my weight and my tallness, over the front of the handlebars, and it's killing my wrists. But the minute you unload that bike and you got a bit of open road and you take it through some twisties, then the bike becomes alive. So I think people need to be a lot more open-minded at looking at different, even with cars, people compare certain heritage cars, but they forget that car has an origin somewhere. Like if you look at the SLS or, the new AMG GT, like it's got heritage going way back. So without trying to lose that heritage, they've built this new car. And I think car reviewers and critics are very quick to point out the bad points of a car. I drove the SLS a couple of years back and did like a little feature on it. And everybody always says, but it's, it's such a long bonnet and it's so hot, it's hard at the back. And I'm like, but it's a hark to the older cars. I mean, even the older cars were never perfect. They were uncomfortable. They were difficult to get in and out of. You look at the old Gullwing. I mean, that car had like a start sequence. You got to prime it first, then you got to switch on the fuel pump. Now you just get on and you press a button. So a lot of things are easier, you know. But people need to keep that in mind, that there's still this heritage factor. And I think so long as manufacturers don't lose their identity and don't water it down as they move on, you know, you'll still have the enthusiasts at large loving what they do.
That guys always love cars. That's never going to change. I mean, we love cars. Old cars, new cars, nothing. Two things I wanted to run past you. One, when I had the magazine for a few years, I mean, obviously I started to get to know all the car journalists from all the different magazines and stuff. And then every now and then I'd pick up a magazine and read it. And then, like I said, I've know the journalist that wrote it, and then he's giving his opinion on the latest Porsche or the latest Ferrari or latest. And I'm like, dude, you drive a fucking Corolla, okay? Who are you to can't say what's going on. And then listen, have you seen that new Mustang SUV EV that they used with Hoonigan?
Oh, yes. I did. That thing is ridiculous.
It's the most insane thing ever.
That thing is ridiculous. And I'm glad that those guys are getting hold of it.
Yes, that whine, that zing, that thing, that is just insane. I was freaked out when I saw that thing. I want one. I don't care. I want.
And it's instant power. I mean, there's no drivetrain loss. There's a motor on pretty much every end. It's just boom, power to the ground. You know, off you go. Cheers. I mean, like the Teslas, they've got ludicrous mode. You know, put the Tesla in ludicrous mode and hit to the drag strip. You're killing Lambos, you're killing Ferraris, you're killing Porsches. Exactly. Doesn't matter what you got.
I need to go to the States for SEMA and stuff. And the guys, I was saying to the guys, I can't wait to get them. And they're like, well, what cars do you want to drive when you're there? And I'm like, wow. I'm on two different sides. Obviously, I want to go for a dive in a Dodge Demon. Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, Dodge Demon, stupid horsepower.
Man,
I mean,
those things are ridiculous.
I know there's one in South Africa, and I know I could go to Benoni and go get into one, but it's just there's something about driving one in the States, okay? Because it's that
feel of Americana. You want to drive it where it comes from, where it lives.
Exactly. So I want to test drive but I want to test drive a Tesla. Okay.
Oh, we don't even have them here.
I said to someone the other day. I mean, now Elon Musk is from Bloemfontein or Pretoria. All right. And I said to them, how much must we have pissed this guy off? Okay, while he was here, to not give us any Teslas at all. I mean. You're talking to guys in the States and you're talking to guys in the UK that's building EVs and like, oh, we're just ripping Teslas apart. I'm like, fuck you. We don't even have one. Okay. Not even one.
Exactly.
You're pulling them apart for spares and we can't even have one.
Man, they're modifying those things already. There's a guy in the States they're called Bulletproof Automotive. And he's Ben Schaffler. Yeah. And I mean, this guy's a legend. I mean, he was one of the guys. He used to build cars for Tokyo Auto Salon. His cars has been in all the Need for Speed games. It's been in Fast and Furious in the movies. So, I mean, he's a big name. And he started doing a thing called Unplugged Performance, where he's just modifying Teslas. Carbon fiber panels and doors and lightweight wheels. And I'm like, dude, this is sick. You know, this is like...
It's crazy.
It's nuts. It's nuts. It's really exciting, you know, because it's cool that the tuners haven't just dropped it and said, we're not going to support it. You know, like we're embracing it and we want to make sure that the guys can still have fun.
But I mean, that's the word. That's what I'm looking at as well. Embracing, you know. It's like coming back, 2.3 Mustang. I think we should embrace the Mustang. I think we should embrace it. I think it's a good conversation to see what the modifiers are going to can do with the 2.3 to go up against the 5 liter.
Yeah.
I think that is a cool race. That is a cool race. Who can push the most power? I think guys should that. I want to see that argument. I want to see guys going against. Okay, cool. You know, maybe Ford, if you're listening, go to a few tuning shops, give them 2.3s because I know you guys have a lot of stock left over. Give them a 2.3 and go. Okay, go nuts. Let's see who can do the best 2.3, and let's make them cool. That's the funniest thing.
You can,
it's
you know, I mean,
it's like any car.
You just need put software in a downpipe, maybe a slightly bigger turbo, do an exhaust. I mean, you're gonna bump power through that thing like you can't believe.
Exactly. And then, like you said, when Shelby launched in South Africa, I met I can't remember what his name was. One of the technical guys that Shelby was here from the States. So I'm talking to him and I'm like, so what do you drive? I'm like, you got a Super Snake or something? He's like, nah, fuck, he was driving a 2.5. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He says, dude, but mine's got like massive turbos, this, and he's going through quarter miles and stuff, and it's absolutely insane. And you're like, oh, and I'm like, there's a cool factor to that. There's a cool factor being different, being the techie guy, you know?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Creating an identity, you know.
Exactly. That I think there's a whole new conversation to be had just by building up a guy starting to do that, and I really think we should embrace. I want to see someone build. Wow, I'm gonna hate mail for this one. I want to see a '67 Mustang with a 2.3 motor in it. I do. Drivetrain, everything. I want to see that. Because
you could build
those motors are cool.
Yeah, and you know the same thing now with the motorcycle industry. I mean, Harley's coming out now with the Livewire, which is a full e-bike. You know, and I watched the video. Who was it? Was it a Formula One driver that basically got on it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he's used to riding motorcycles and you know all this kind of thing," and he inadvertently ripped the throttle too hard and this thing just took off, and you must see this guy's face. He was like, what is happening? You know, I saw one in Australia when I was there the beginning of the year. I was at Harley in Australia and I saw the Livewire standing there. Man, that thing looks so crazy. I can't wait to actually just get on and feel, because motorcycles are fast, no matter which one. No matter if you get on a small one or a big one, you twist the throttle, it's going to go forward really quickly. But now you've got something that, like we've spoken with the cars, there's no power loss. It's instant power, you know. So you got to be work so much more gingerly with that throttle, you know, because it's just wow, and off you go. So I mean, it's like the world of Tron. It's like we're going into the space age, you know, instant power.
But that's what we were saying the other day when it came to racing, because we were saying how cool it is now. These electric cars are coming in. Okay, Formula One is now they're trying to go the electric route, and these got the full Formula Electric. And our technology is developing. And I said, can you imagine getting to a point like, what was that? Who was it? I think we spoke about it on the show with Chris. Speed Racer, you know?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
Stupidly fast stuff. But we were saying we can get to a point where we can start building like self-driving race cars, like, and do like a death race type of thing. I mean, embrace technology.
Well, you know what? There's a guy that I met online many years ago. His name is Rod Chong. He was the creative director for Electronic Arts for many years, and he's, you know, been massively involved. He was one of the guys that actually started Speed Hunters, the online blog.
A friend of mine worked Keith.
Yeah,
he was a marketing.
All right. Yeah, no. So, and he's kind of evolved through his career, but more recently he's been involved in autonomous races, e-races. So he's working with a team now where they're actually busy testing these autonomous races that are all electric. You know, they've got like built-in AI. So you know, if they see somebody driving, you know, they can learn different moves, and it's crazy. The technology is going light years ahead. I mean, I know they've got the e-racing formula that they've started, I think a couple of years ago now. They've had 1 or 2 or 3 seasons. I'm not exactly sure how much, but I know that's also been going. And a lot of races that are basically been PlayStation races, You know, back in the day, they had the Nissan and PlayStation collaboration where they would take drivers literally out of the top drivers out of all the PlayStation
that's happening
sims.
a lot now with VR
And
racing. Yeah.
yeah, and now they're taking those races and also just putting them back into actually like these e-cars, which is really exciting.
Well, I mean, what we were saying is the biggest issue. Okay, besides for the fact that when it crashes, it's a lot of money. Okay.
Yeah.
But Formula One was trying to slow the cars down because of safety aspect.
Yeah.
Now, all you do is you take the driver out the car and you stick him in a building. And the car, he can still drive the car. He's just not sitting in it. Can you imagine the speed and everything you can do if you take the fear factor out of it? As in, oh, well, you know, someone's not going to die.
Yeah. Well, you're taking that emotion out of the race, really. But I'm also scared, you know, I mean, it's one thing to take the emotion out of the race, but if we look at all the OGs of racing, the Fangios, the Schumachers, the Sennas, you know, these were guys that mentally were so brilliant that they could block out anything and just focus on this one task they had to do. And so how does somebody become a modern day legend? I mean, you could have somebody that's 13 years old that's really good at a PlayStation that can ride an e-racer, and they don't really understand the physics involved, and you can get good at it. I mean, look, e-gaming is a whole nother topic. I mean, there's kids that are so young and winning these massive purses. They're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's just the old school in me, and I enjoy knowing that there's a guy sitting at the wheel that's just got his whole body and his whole mind working with this machine.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's kind of part of the passion, and that's kind of part of the passion of why I started Soul of Machine. You know, the machine, all the machines that a person controls takes over into a personality, and I think it's that personality that kind of captures people and captures imaginations.
It's true. It's just you've got this guy that's used to racing sim, and then you put him in a real car, and then the only saying I've got, it's like Mike Tyson's favorite saying: everyone has a plan until you get hit in the face. Okay.
Pretty much.
You think you're brilliant at racing, and what's it, sim racing, until someone puts you in a car and you're actually going down straight at 250 k's an hour.
Yeah.
That's the punch in the face.
Yeah, that's the fear factor. I was also watching a series now recently. It's on Netflix. It's called it's like a Formula One. It's called Formula One driving.
Oh, is it driven driving? Is that right? Because that documentary they did on Formula One.
It's a documentary, and Lewis Hamilton was. Oh, it's ridiculous! And Lewis Hamilton was driving in the car, and he was taking someone around, and he was explaining to them like, yeah, when I drive here, I take this corner at roughly 200 miles an hour, and the guy's like, how? You know, like how is it even possible? I mean, the one race I watched, he was actually sick, like he had flu. And they put him in the car, and they were like, Lewis, are you okay to drive? And there was like this little pause, and he was like, yeah, I can do this. And he got in the car, started off a bit rocky, you know, his first couple of laps. He ended up winning the race with flu, like he was sick, you know. And now the Silverstone, and now the GP this weekend it's passed, 3 wheels. I mean, he's unstoppable.
I'm sorry. I know there's everyone's bitching because of him and standing for Black Lives Matters and stuff, and that's why I hate it when sports guys get involved with political stuff, because it just fucks with the fun of sporting part of it. That guy's a brilliant driver, man. He really is. I mean,
he is.
It's the only thing. I had friends over the other night, and we were talking about the epic battle between Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen back in the day. Ferrari versus McLaren.
Yeah.
I am actually getting goosebumps, as you said. I was a bartender at a pub called Fat Arnie's at Kyalami. It's right on the track. It was the old Fat, the grungy one. 4 o'clock in the morning, man. We are there. We didn't sleep. We just drank a lot of Red Bull, and we were ready to bartend because there was racing at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I said to Brett the other day, you're sitting there because we had that big with the projector on, okay, and we're waiting for the signal to get through to projector, and then everyone is the bar's full, okay. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Guys are drinking beer, and shots, and fucking Jägermeister because Formula One is on, and then that screen comes on, and then you see it's raining, and half bar just goes, yeah, because
everyone knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race. Some guys are going to get lapped. Okay, I get goosebumps every time. That was the most epic battle. That point where Mika Hakkinen crashes and falls down on his knees and cries. Can you imagine the mental strain of that battle between those two?
Yeah.
I mean, it was insane, you know.
And in the cars, I mean, we talk about the early 40s and 50s of how unsafe cars were, but people forget how safety has progressed every year. So even back then, you know, they had cars that were, you know, a little more wild. You know, you actually really had to put the work in to make the car drive properly. You know.
Yeah, so, you still had to drive it, dude.
Yeah, and you still have to tell that thing where to go, you know. And you know, I always use a measuring stick, if I can call it such. There's a one-track Belgium Spa, the 24-hour, and then there's the corner that's called En Rouge, right? So the elevation change and the G-force change between this corner is so crazy that they always say if a car and a driver is really good and they're perfect, they can take this lap without lift. They can take that corner without lifting, right? So I always watch the races and I see, okay, who's going to lift on En Rouge? Because whoever lifts, I know that you're scared of this corner.
I'm looking at that poster behind you. I actually watched that the other night, that Ford versus Ferrari. Bloody epic, eh?
Loved it. Cinematography, the actors. Oh, loved it. They picked the right guys for the video. Or for the movie.
Oh, definitely. But apparently, we were talking to a friend of mine, Sarah. He met the Lamborghini family a while back.
Okay.
And apparently, they also just Enzo Ferrari just made so many friends back in the day. Apparently, I think they're making a movie of Lamborghini.
Oh,
how Lamborghini became. Because I mean, that basically, I wonder if they're going to get the same actor to play Enzo, so someone else can, you know, go to as well.
Must. Keep the consistency going. That'll be really good.
Yeah, everyone, we're going to just line up everyone that Enzo Ferrari pissed off, and we're just going to make movies around.
It's a brilliant idea if you think about it. Actually, it's a really good idea. Well, I mean,
go for it.
No. Well, with Lamborghini, I mean, there's one personality that I really hope they kind of try and focus on, and that's Valentino Balboni, the test driver. Because I mean, that guy started out basically like sweeping the floors. He just wanted a job, and then the one day they put him in a Lamborghini. They told him, "No, you just want to move this from this side to that side," and he ended up actually going for a drive with this car that literally didn't have it was a rolling chassis with no shell. And I said, "Hey, do you want to be a test driver?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, cool. You're the new test driver for Lamborghini." And that's how his story started. And even then getting a car basically built for him, you know, the Balboni edition Gallardo, which is an absolute monster Gallardo, not to be taken lightly.
Oh, dude. But there was just such characters back then. I mean, the stories. Like, I was talking to Chris Harper a while back about Tucker. Did you ever watch what's the Tucker, the Man in His Dream?
No.
Oh, dude, it is epic. It's a true story. You go Google it. The car's called the Tucker 48, right? It was the first rear-mounted. I think it was the first motor was rear-mounted. It had 3 headlights, and the center headlight would turn with the wheels, so it would follow you.
Yes,
it was the first car. Yeah, it's the first car, I think, that had seatbelts. It's absolutely insane. Rob Idle, I know when I had the episode, I had photos. He's actually trying to develop the car that Tucker originally wanted, he designed, but the technology wasn't there to build it. Rob Idle's busy building that car, and then Rob Idle does a bunch of Tucker 48. But it was just so epic, the story behind it.
Yeah,
how
and
these
even
guys the fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the technology from those days. Well, I touched on a very interesting thing a couple of years ago, because I used to do a radio show. It was obviously car driven for about a year on a local radio station here in Cape Town, and it's actually interesting because like the electric vehicle was actually thought out like in the beginning of the 1900s already, and just kind of due to, at that time, obviously, the gasoline-driven cars were coming, and there was motorcycles, and everything was starting to like kind of, catch traction, that it was actually shunted because they said, well, we don't want to kind of give this the legs because it's going to take over whatever we've just started. So back then already, EVs were already put to the side, and it was a combination also of like EV and steam, and they're all different things. It was so incredible, the technology.
Go check out Jay Leno's garage.
Legend of a guy.
Jay's got a car. They did an electric car in 1913, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, it was powered from each individual wheel. They did it back then. Apparently, if I remember my history correctly, electric cars were really big, but they were more women cars. This is during the 1910s, 1920s. Electric cars were huge, but they stopped them because they went to gas motors because of oil. Yeah. But there were I think, and Jay Leno actually does a bunch of. He actually owns one, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's got one.
I think he's got one of every car that's ever existed. That guy's got a collection. Cool. Man, that's one place I'd love to go walk around.
Oh yes. I've made contact with him because I'm a few times, and look, he's a very cool guy, and I love the fight between him and Tim Allen.
Also, Tim Allen he's a great personality. That guy,
huge car guy. I'll never forget it. He said, I think he did the interview for Road Hogs. And he was sitting with Oprah, and he says he was sitting watching. I think he was reading a Hot Rod magazine or something, and he was very depressed and down. And he saw a photo of a '67 Shelby GT500, and he went, "You know what? If I had one of those, I'd feel better. That's it. I need the ultimate. That is the one. I need to do it." He says, "Pick up the phone," and I phoned my garage manager, and I don't know what the guy's name is. He's like, Bill, listen, made a decision. Go and find me a '67 Shelby GT500. Okay, I want that car. And he went, "But you got one already." What? Like, yeah, you got one.
That's crazy. Anyway, I'm sure these guys forget, every one of them forget what they got,
But yeah, that was quite funny. So listen, I mean, I'm having so much fun. We're talking so much car. What are you busy with now? Let's talk some business quickly.
I can carry on all day.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I think at the moment for me, I'm concentrating on a lot of new content for the channel. YouTube's become a focus more because I just want to kind of reach a broader audience. I want to give more people the opportunity. I've got a lot of cool contacts in the industry, from custom cars to custom bikes, and I'm also moving into the gear side of things. So I want to cover a lot of gear that people use, either with anything that's related to either cars or bikes. So a lot of new content that's coming out. So I've been spending a lot of time curating some of that stuff and getting that going. And then, I'm also busy with doing a bit of brand work. There's a local, I love supporting the local brands. Keeping the guys in South Africa also going, and so it's a fun way to get things done. Anything that touches on any sphere of that is kind of where I'm moving at the moment.
And how did the lockdown affect everything that you were doing, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I think for anybody that's in the media side, I think it slows things down quite a bit. You're not allowed to move around, you're not allowed to do things. So yeah, I've still got things, other business and other things that keep me busy in the day. Day jobs that keep me going.
Mm.
So, but it's also affected us there. Things
What?
are.
You have still a day job?
Yeah, I still have a 9 to 5 that I keep going amongst all of this.
What is
So,
the 9 to 5?
So I'm actually in the IT industry. I'm an IT. My profession is at the moment is an ICT technical manager. So that's kind of where I sit at the moment.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. So when it comes to the technical stuff, so I've got a love for a lot of things from both a technical side, a creative side. So I try to merge the two together and try and find that sweet spot. Yeah.
But from what you were saying earlier, I'm the same. I love the story behind everything. Everything has a story.
Mm.
And that's the part that I loved about from a car perspective. Because here's this. I mean, think about it. So you go and you find a 32 Ford standing somewhere, all right, in a field. That car's been through wars. It is literally seen every major event in the world that it's been, but it's just object that's standing there. And that blows my mind. A friend of mine came up with an idea. Someone steals this, and okay, I don't have time to do movies.
Not yet.
Not yet. I was told that Nelson Mandela drove a 57 210 car. Okay, 57 Chevy 210, a black one. And I said, who was I sitting with one day? I must have had weed or something like that. It was one of those conversations just completely haywire. I went, can you imagine? So obviously that car came into the country somehow. Okay, so the car must have been brought in by some doctor or something like that. All right, and then somehow this car ended up, and it's owned by Nelson Mandela. All right, and the struggle they went through, and then this car got sold, and then it ended up drag racing. Yeah, vereniging or something. Witbank or something. Can you imagine? It's like you can have a car that's like Forrest Gump. You can have this car that's been a part of every major thing that's happened in South Africa.
Yes.
But no one knew it's actually been there.
Exactly.
Yeah. It could have been owned. Yeah, there could be a link to every person, every president, major event, bombing, whatever you can blow your mind or whatever you can come up with. You can think, and you can actually have one car that could be there.
Yeah, and that's kind of and that exactly what you've mentioned now is kind of falls in line to where I feel, it's that soul of machine. That's kind of like everybody gives a piece of themselves in owning a specific car or putting their touch on it or doing something to it. And that's what essentially brings that machine to life. It gives it a history, it gives it life. And there's always this inexplicable connection that us as car people, whether you're a car woman or a car guy, we've got this inexplicable connection to specific cars that we've owned. You'll go through cars, you're like, I didn't really care about that one, but this one, there was just something about it. Even though it wasn't perfect, it never started the way it should. The handling was atrocious. The left window never wanted to wind down the way it should. But there was something about this car that I just loved, and I think that's for me is the real what makes it all worthwhile at the end of the day, really.
That gets me. I have this whole thing. You should never buy the thing that you always wanted in your dream. And here's the story. Okay, so when I was young, my dad had, I think it was the Fiat Scorpion.
Yes, yeah.
Special edition. What was it called, man? You know which one I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah.
Tiny Fiat. I think it was like a Bath or something like that, Scorpio or something. Anyway, so he had one of those, and then apparently, because as kids ruined his lives, he had to sell the car because we were bored.
Because you're
That's not
expensive.
really what happened. Yeah, we're expensive. That's not really what happened, but anyway. So he had this. So a few years back, he phones me, and he's like, "Yes, yeah, I found one." And I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, this guy sells it," and because my dad stays in Joburg, and he's like, "Oh, he's gonna go drive this thing, yeah, because he can still." I can remember the interior and the smell and how the feel and everything, and I'm like, "Don't do it." He's like, "Why?" I said, "Because the idea and the memory of something is better than the reality of it."
No, they don't always align.
He's like, nah. I'm like, yeah, you get. I'm like, the idea, because it's like my second car was an '82 Golf GTI. All right, Mark 1 Golf GTI.
Legend,
and
the legend.
Yes, and it was the most epic thing in the world. Okay. I climbed into a Golf the other day, and I'm like, oh God, did I own one of these things? Okay.
But don't you
No
think it's don't you think it's true for new cars and reviews in general? Because I find that in general, just with anything that's new, there's a lot of hype around certain parts of a new model, and you get into it and you got all this expectation, and you dump the clutch and you go and you're like, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
I was expecting,
like,
or then you get somebody that says, oh, this is a terrible car and the plastics are really bad, and they go through all the normal kind of checklist review pieces.
Yeah.
And then you get into the car and you're like, but that doesn't matter because the car drives really well. It makes me feel like,
Ford Fiesta.
Yeah,
Ford Fiesta. The Eco Boost?
Oh, the little, you're talking about the ST or the normal one?
No, normal one.
The little 1 liter Eco Boost.
Fuck, that thing is awesome.
Brilliant.
I love that.
And it goes.
The motor,
yeah, and it goes.
It was comfy. I mean, I would have bought. We had one. I would have taken that over a lot of big cars. The fuel economy was great. The seats are comfy. That is a good car.
But you know what? But you know what happens with the review now? So someone goes and reviews the Fiesta ST, right? 1.6 turbocharged, goes like a bat out of hell. Then they're coming to the EcoBoost and like, oh, this car is really slow and the gear changes are slow and it doesn't handle well. But look from where you're coming. It's like I can't get out of a Porsche and jump into a Fiat Multipla and try and compare the two. It's just it's not gonna happen,
Look,
and one of the cars. And one of the cars.
Continue.
No. One of the cars that got a really bad rap with a lot of reviewers, but if you look at the actual guys that reviewed the cars that gave it a great review, that they were actually really drivers. They were a proper driver's driver, if you can call it that. That's even worth saying. Was the Toyota 86, the Toyota 86 sports car that was launched? A lot of people said it was underpowered. And it just didn't go as fast. I mean, granted, you could put a GTI next to that, and the GTI would outdrag that thing by a country mile. It's quicker. It's definitely quicker. But the smiles per mile you're going to have in that rear-wheel drive car, and throwing that car around safely, even at a low speed, because it can do that, and the heritage where the car came from. So, it's very much kind of like.
And you don't have to take up vaping because you're driving a GTI.
It's such an interesting market because, and I think certain people, like I love watching Chris Harris. He's been quiet for quite a while now. I mean, he absolutely loved the car. He said it's one of the best cars he'd ever driven. And I mean, this comes from a guy that drives Bentleys, limited edition Ferraris, Lambos, whatever it is, gets in this really entry-level sports car and has great things to say about it, you know. It was the same, like everyone always ragged on the old MX-6, the MX-5, every hairdresser's car, you know. You're not driving that you can't drive that car if you're not a man. Get into that little car and take it for a drive.
They are selling like hotcakes at the moment. The US and the UK are Mazda Miatas. They are selling Miata.
It's the highest selling convertible in history. It's the highest selling convertible, most popular convertible ever built. Yeah.
And like you said, but it comes down to like the 350Zs, and there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of underrated cars.
Very much.
Great performance, that type of stuff. And you got to wonder, because it is, you're correct with saying you've got journalists that he's just gone through, test drove a new 7 Series, and now they're throwing him into, A1 Audi, and he's like, oh, this A1's absolutely horrible. Dude, you could like fucking half a bar price difference between the two. Okay. Yeah. Plastic. Look, the worst thing, and it was the worst car launch I've ever been to in my life, was the Datsun Go. The first time the Datsun Go lost. It was like watching a train wreck. Okay. I don't know who did the marketing for the Datsun Go. But they had this thing. It was based on like an influencer. Okay, so you're like a Viber. They had this word. So we all got there, and the first thing they do is they stuck like what's this, all-star shoes on everyone, so you can get into like the vibe of it. And then they put us on bean bags, and they go through the marketing thing, and they're like, this is for a go-getter, multiple jobs, blah, blah, blah. And they're trying to set the whole stage now for the target scene for the target market and stuff. And we went into this room, and they're like, yeah, and here's the Datsun Go. And do you have any questions? And that's the head of marketing goes. And the first journalist sticks his hands up. He says, can you correspond that why the Datsun Go has got the worst safety rating out of every car that's ever done? You guys are saying that this car needs to be for students, but what parent will buy a car that has absolutely the worst safety rating? And you see them go, and he goes, okay, can you, no airbags. It was just, like I said, and they're just nailing him on, because now, and then they're like, but you're promoting it to a guy who's basically like a entrepreneur who does multiple jobs. Like, but how's he going to get finance for this thing? Because his parents are going to have to buy it, because multiple jobs means that you're working in CAT. Man, they just ripped this company completely apart, you know, and so many different levels. And then it got worse, and then we drove it, and it just got worse from there.
I think a lot of I think a lot of the time with manufacturers, you know, they release something and they leave it up to certain marketing agencies or certain people to do it. And for some reason, unfortunately, it's a hit or a miss. You know, you got somebody that's really passionate about cars, passionate about the brand, and you know, they hit it right every time. And then you get certain brands where, unfortunately, they do struggle to sell cars, but they don't have the right personality selling that product. They don't have the right person attached to that. You know, I've been privy enough to go to a few really nice Porsche launches, and I must say, whoever does the launches for like the Porsches, they got it nailed down. There's people, they're passionate about the brand, and I'm not endorsed by them or anything. You know, I don't get money for them for saying this, but you know, you go to a Porsche branch, the people that are working there, they are passionate about what they do. They're passionate about the product, and I think that's almost like a vetting criteria that manufacturers. And the same for the motorcycle industry. You almost need to have like a vetting system to say, do you like motorcycles? Do you like cars? Do you like riding them? Have you gone breakfast runs? Do you like modifying them? No. Okay, well, sorry, we need somebody that's actually passionate about what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, that's the person 100%. That's going to sell your brand. So how do you sell the brand if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you know?
I'm not the only, I mean, this conversation you and I have had, I've had with multiple multiple car guys and everything. And South Africa is renowned for it. You've got the marketing company brings in some crony or someone that they know from a company. They know fuck all about cars, okay? They don't know anything about the brand or the history of it, okay? I spoke to a marketing company the one day who was working with Hot Wheels, and they knew nothing about Hot Wheels.
Oh no. And you know, Hot Wheels in America, the people that work there are super passionate about, I watched this little documentary about how they actually make the cars and the people that work at Hot Wheels in the head office at USA.
I know.
They're all car nuts.
I'm trying to set up an interview. Yeah, I'm busy setting up.
You go into the parking lot. Yeah, you go into the parking lot and you see the cars they drive. It's like, wow, that guy's got a custom this and modified that, you know.
But that's all. Do you have any? I mean, I've had the magazine for 12, 13 years. Do you have any idea how many brands I have dealt with? Okay, and then we're talking car parts, car guys, everything. Where I've sat down, and the people you talk to do not know anything about the brand. You walking in there, and you didn't go Google the crap out of them. Okay.
Yeah.
You just know from knowledge. You know everything because it is a brand. It's a brand that we grew up with. And you sit down with a marketing person and you go down and you go, oh, I think we should do this and we should focus on this that you guys did. We did that. And I'm not like, how did you not know that you did racing? How did you not? And it's like it's the heritage things that's given these brands their name and placing it and their love and everything. And here you've got this millennials sitting there who have no idea. And it's like, oh no, but we need to try and I'm like, yeah, but that's where it comes from. That's where brand loyalty comes from. There's a reason a guy will drive past Shell or drive past Sasol and stop at Shell because he loves Ferrari.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And he wants his car to go like a Ferrari.
That's it. Well, it's the Glue Glue kid, okay? When the ad came out with the kid with the little Sasol.
Yeah, man.
Your dad had to put fucking Sasol in the car, okay?
Yeah.
Didn't care if you drove a Beetle and didn't turn into a Porsche or something. You had to go to Sasol.
Okay. Or remember the old Caltex ads with the bunnies, you know? Yeah. All the kids wanted to go to Caltex to get the stickers for the bunnies.
For the sticker. You did put it this way, you wanted the sticker, but the bunny was scary as shit. Okay. Couldn't see the bunny. But that's how brands are built. I mean, that's guys forget it's all about the history of it. And I think any brand, if you get where you've come from, I know you're trying to look at new ways going forward. I watched this brilliant series. It's taking me 2 days. The Toys. It's on Netflix. Toys and how they made us. Have you watched that?
No, I must check it out.
Oh, dude, it is insane. So it goes through. Ninja Turtles, He-Man, My Little Pony, Barbie, every toy we grew up with, but how they became to be, who made them, who was responsible, the companies, the people, it is absolutely fascinating. When you listen and look at, you see, I mean, they're talking about some of these toys were doing $200 million a year on toys.
Crazy.
But you listen to that and you listen to all that history. Now all of a sudden you look at He-Man that you've still got laying somewhere in a box from when you were 12.
80s.
And you 80s and you've got a whole, and besides for your brain now goes that it's worth something, you've got so much more respect for it.
Yeah, you do.
Because
it's
now
the same. Yeah,
what's that to get that toy to you?
Yeah. 100%. It is the same with Nike and then shoes, you know, like the sneaker culture, there's such a massive amount of passion behind that, I mean, before I watched any of the documentaries on that and actually delved a bit into the history, before you go to a store, that's cool, put it on, off you go. And then you kind of delve into the brand, and you get, like you say, you get so much more respect for where they've come from, what they've done. And I think that can definitely needs to transcend into the local South African market, And I think for a large time of it, yes, obviously you get more of that, not just here, but internationally as well. But I can speak for the local market. Is we need some of that passion back in some of the brands, and get the right people to drive the brands and to put it back on track. I mean, remember the old days of the Bankfund Touring Cup, right? Yes. And everybody that drove 2-liter STI Sentras and the Premieras and and the BMs, and it was a race on Saturday, sell on Monday. The guys would be into the dealerships and they were like, man, that's the car I want because the guys are racing it. It's got passion. It's got heritage. That's where I want to be.
And those boys.
Yes.
Man, that fight. Yes, with my those the BM was the Sentras and the BMs, and I remember
the BMs, and then back before that you had the old Toyota Conquest and RSI, the Dave Repsols and Mike Whites and all those guys. Man,
on the road to my dad's shop, Dave Repsol, we popped in there the whole time. I was always like I walked in. My dad knows him. I walked in and there's like big eyes. Wow, this guy builds race cars. Oh no, the Rothman's Audi.
Yes.
Out of the Merva and the Mustang.
Yes.
Oh, epic battle. Walking in Kyalami, walking to the pits. I'll never forget my dad, proud hot rodder, walking and that Audi motor's open. And it's just pipes and all this type of stuff. And then next to it in the next pit, Sarah van der Merwe and the Mustang, and it's just that fucking V8. My dad's like, nice a car, son. Look at that. Look.
Yeah.
All that technology crap on that side, there's just a V8 sitting there,
Yeah, I mean, you had like the Tony Viana BMW stuff. You had the old Sierra. Yeah, you had the old Sierra X on track. That's all the good stuff, man. What happened to those years? What happened?
Yeah, but even go back. I mean, it's coming back now. Drag racing, the Wild Bunch, dude. Massive V8, big wheel. Race cars and stuff that was going. I mean, we'd go to Tolton as a kid, and you'd sit there like V8s, and then the rice pudders come out. I need to go pee, and it's time for a hot dog because no one wants to watch a full bag of fucking race. And now you sit, you're gonna drag, and now you have to just sit and wait. But I was saying, and now it's impressive. Yes, what the drag racing guys are doing in South Africa at the moment is just insane.
Yeah, there's some crazy cars. There's some crazy cars coming out. You see what Ralph just got now from the States, that beast of his.
Yeah. I need to get someone to go do a photo shoot for me there, and that thing needs to come on very quickly. That thing looks insane.
That thing's proper.
But
that thing's proper.
We're sitting at this line at the moment in South Africa. There's so much potential moving forward. Okay, there's so much that can be done. Oh, excuse me. We can really ramp this thing up. We can take drag racing and everything can get ramped up to the way it be if the guys start working together. Look, I mean, yes, my heart goes out. I saw what's been happening with Tygerberg Raceway.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah, that is just absolutely heartbreaking. It's weird. At one point, one side we're seeing racetracks opening in one section of the country, and other sides we're seeing racetracks fighting for their lives on other sides of it.
Yeah, I mean, here in Cape Town, we've also got, Killarney's also been under a lot of scrutiny over the last few years.
Yeah. Always talk about they're going to close it down.
And it'll be a sad day when that happens, I mean, there's a lot of heritage. There were some big names that came to race back in the day, that's it's just going to be gone. Huh?
Yeah, but they've got so much cock on that side. It's not just the fact that they want to convert the track into housing and that type of stuff. They got constant fights with noise pollution and this type of stuff. I mean, Paul explained to me the one day when they do an event, they have if I understand correctly, they have a deal with the municipality based on a certain amount of decibels they're
Correct.
allowed to
Correct.
use. And
Yeah.
if they have to go up, they have to pay per decibel. Okay. So you bring in a Formula One car, okay, or you bring a big dragster or something in. That pushes over. They have to pay to do it. I mean, we wanted to bring in, myself and Paul spoke ages ago. We wanted to get Mick van Rensburg to bring like the top fuelers and the 8,000 horsepower cars just for exhibition. But probably you start that, you can hear that thing 5 kilometers, and then
that
it's
thing's
idling.
a beast. That's a beast.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one of those jet cars at Talton years ago. Yeah, man, and they do the burnout where they melt the car down.
Exactly. Now you go sit. That table view's gonna cock in the pants. Okay, can you imagine that on a Sunday afternoon? All right. I mean, look, when I lived in Cape Town in Table View, there's nothing better. I actually lived close to the track for a reason. So on a Sunday, you can lay there.
It's like, oh, that's soothing.
Oh, exactly. I could have a nap to that, But like I said, the tracks are just under so much fire, and the lack of sponsorship, the lack of support. And maybe it comes back to, like we were saying before we started the interview, we were saying how in our industry, when it comes to TV and publishing and all this type of stuff, people always have this perspective that because someone does the same thing that you do, that you're against them. You have to, there's an argument. It's like you have to begrudge them for doing something great. You can't, I can't sit and watch your show and go, dude, I really like what you did there. I want like you to actually watch my show and then come back and go, oh, Joe, listen, I know what you were doing there, but maybe next time you let's improve. How do we work together to build something? Because I mean, think about the States and stuff as well. There's multiple TV stations. There's multiple everything. The more you get, the more we expand. But somehow in South Africa, it's like we have this mindset that there's only space for one. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. It makes sense. Like it's so true what you say. I follow a lot of big YouTubers and photography and film gurus, if you can call them, overseas. And two in particular that I really enjoy, well, 3 of them, but 2 in particular that I really enjoy watching. One is called Peter McKinnon. The other one's a guy called Maddie. He's out in Canada. They're both in Canada. But they've both got like millions of subscribers. They both get thrown dead by Canon and Fuji and Sony to do stuff, Well, one's a Canon ambassador now, but the other guy still gets, loads of stuff to test and to shoot with and whatever. But yet they're best mates. They get together. Yeah. They do podcasts. They appear in each other's videos. They help each other out. And there's a group of them. I mean, like Peter is friends with so many guys, and he'll go out and he'll go sit with this guy. He'll go sit with Casey Neistat, that massive YouTuber from a little while ago. And they'll all get together and help each other out. It's true what you say. Like, I feel there's a lot of, I wouldn't say, the competition is good. At the end of the day, the more people that do it, the more people that help the industry grow, the more the opportunity begets for people to do things with brands and with people. But everyone is trying to kind of put the next guy down. There's very few that you get that are just like, hey guys, we're all in this together, and find your own identity. I think it's so important. Yeah, I think it's so important for people to find their own identity. Like, don't look at one guy and say, oh, this is brilliant, I just want to copy that. Or even if that guy gives you a tip, I think it's also important. I mean, I work with a good couple of people that help me out. I mean, I can't fool myself. So yes, I've had to learn how to produce, edit, shoot, present, do everything out of necessity. Because I enjoy having stuff a certain way. But then there's people that's been helping me through the process that I can't hold the camera like this, and while I'm driving the car, do stuff. So, I mean, I've got great friends that help me out. Irina and John, Altus, Greg, these people have all been there for me and to help me to get to where I am. But the credit is where credit is due. If somebody is there to give you a helping hand, it's not to say that, oh, because I mention him, I'm going to lose business. It just makes you human. It makes you normal. It just builds the community. So how are you going to build that community if you're not giving back? Because without the people's support, without the followers, the viewers, those are the people that build you. So, create your own identity. Don't be like somebody else. Take inspiration, which I think is super important. Like
inspiration is the way forward.
Yeah, we're not all born with the best of ideas. We go through changes and we evolve as creators and we evolve as media houses, and take the inspiration and do what you want to do. But create your own identity and not to try and follow what other people are doing. And that's kind of like the big mentality. People think, like photography had a massive boom probably, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago. So then everybody was getting cameras for their birthdays and sons and daughters, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? There's a camera. So now somebody starts shooting, but they don't understand that, now you come there, Joe comes in and says, hey, you know what? I can shoot for you. Yeah, okay, fine. How much are you going to charge? I'm going to charge so much. It's like, oh, that's so expensive. Why is it so expensive? It's like, well, my experience is this. The result you want is this. So that's where you're going to be. But they don't understand that, yes, there's millions of photographers out there, but, that influx of people to want to do what you are doing, it's just, you almost have to justify everything all the time. And it kind of just mainstreams it, which is good for the industry, because if I look at how a digital camera has evolved from not just 5 years ago to today, I mean, so Canon has released the R5. I mean, 8K, 4K, 120 frames, all full autofocus, no crop sensor. It's crazy what these guys are doing, and it's because the industry is growing so fast that they're able to produce and give creators, something that's really worth it. But I think the message to kind of run home is just be yourself. Don't try and be somebody else. Create your own brand, create your own feel. And I feel that is, excuse the pun, but that's the road to success, if it should be anything.
Well, like I said, it's just, I like what you say. Take inspiration. If you're watching someone's podcast or you're watching someone's show or anything that you do, you like a certain aspect that they do, don't copy the whole fucking thing, okay? Just think of that little piece. Take that point that goes into it. That's kind of that's what we're going for. I've seen it as well. Years ago, Barry Ashmold worked with me with the magazine. And Barry started his own magazine called Garage. And when I heard about it the first time, obviously, you're upset. And I phoned him, and he told me he's doing this and what he's doing. And I said to him, good luck. And as much as it wasn't a hot rod magazine, I mean, he focused on a lot of different aspects. But, dude, that magazine of his was beautiful. It was beautiful. The layout, the writing style, everything. I mean, I read Garage and I knew I had to raise my fucking game. Yeah. Now I have to be better. I have to be better. I need to be more. And I tried to get my layout and everything. And I knew I couldn't fight. We are in different fields. As much as the magazine's content is different, that is the only problem that you have when it comes to motoring in South Africa. Is you can go do a magazine that's only where you can go throw everything together, and it could be completely different to SA Hot Rods. But we unfortunately all eat out of the same pool when it comes to advertising. Yeah, that's the problem. And that's me and Speed and Sound, everyone together. Okay, Speed and Sound, we are on two completely opposite sides of everything, but we eat out of the same pool. We all fighting for the same pie, and the same pie as the advertising guys. Okay, we want the same brands and the same companies involved. And that's where your issues and that whole thing. I mean, unfortunately, his magazine didn't launch, but I love his mag. I did, and I think I told him afterwards when it closed down. I said to him, I mean, I wanted to put some of his articles and stuff, and they were beautifully written. The magazine, everything was just so well done. It was such a great thing. And his mag coming out, like I said, made me change everything on my side. I didn't want to copy him because I knew that his style wouldn't work with my magazine.
Yeah.
But it made me better.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like the competition is a good thing. The more people, the more people create, the more we push each other to do better, which is where we all want to be, And I think that's the great thing. But at the same time, having that community and people to even, it's not about stealing ideas, even bouncing ideas and speaking to like-minded creators.
That's what I was just saying.
That's like so important.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, look, I get involved with way too many fucking things in my life. Between magazine, TV shows, podcasts, car giveaways, car builds, it's just but I still have a lot of ideas. I would rather, instead of just sitting, how can I put it? It's like someone that's got a yard full of cars and they're all rusting away because I'm going to get to them someday. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So now you're sitting with these ideas, and you know that. Well, hold on, I've got something here. This could work. So maybe what you should do is I should rather phone someone like you and go, dude, listen. So I've got this. I want to do this. Why don't we work on a collab type of thing? Let's get this 100%. Project up and running. That 100%. Makes way more sense than keeping that cards in front of your face the whole time and go, someday I'm going to do this. And 2 years down the line, the opportunity's gone because the market changed. A TV show 100%. That you did 2 years ago might not, that would be great 2 years ago, might not work now.
100%.
And guys don't understand that. The concepts change, people change, the way of looking at things change, technology change. You were talking about cameras and this type of stuff earlier. My Rod Shop is done with two people, me and Daniel. All right, the whole show. We go out, the two of us. Sometimes we get a third guy in to help. Other than that, we two people that shoot the entire season, every season so far. And Daniel is, I'm scared because he's gonna phone me and fucking swear at me. So I don't want to say it's expensive, but I should be paying him more, and he's gonna hate me because now he's gonna ask me for more. But he is worth every cent, dude. And he is absolute master. If you guys if you go watch season 1 of the Rod Shop and you look at the camera work and except for the episode that I did on Speed Week, I need to tell you about that. Yeah. So everything Daniel did. If you look at the shots, how the thing was shot, everything, and keep in mind at that stage, all I did from a TV perspective is I did the ones interviewed a few people, so I had no idea how to work in the camera, how to stand in front of someone, talk to someone, nothing. Yeah, fuck it. Now all of a sudden I'm standing and trying to design, produce a TV show, and then I got it. I wanted to, when the editing started, I got some editors in, and they started editing the show. But the editors worked with Super Sport and this type of stuff. And the problem I had with this is they are so used to editing things in a certain way. Yeah. I couldn't get my message across.
100%.
And people don't understand it. So now it's just not looking right. There's something that's just off of it. And I remember I phoned Daniel and I'm like, it's editors and it's just all wrong and stuff. And he said, okay, I'm going to send you something. So next thing is Dropbox thing comes through, and it was a tutorial for Final Cut Pro. So, okay, because now I have to get the show ready for Ignition. So I sat 2 days, and I went through the tutorial for Final Cut Pro, and then I edited the whole show.
There you go.
Yeah, so I had the same with the magazine. I just did, but it's a single swim, dude. Figure it out, make it happen, take it from.
Born out of necessity.
But now, like I said, technology has changed. So, I mean, we were running, those smooth running shots underneath the car, what you will use a gimbal and all these type of things. Now, we had a skateboard with sponge. Okay. We
and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it, These
beautiful, smooth drive-by shots. Daniel hanging off of the back of the bucky with an extremely expensive camera about like 5 centimeters from the tar, hanging off a bucky while the guy V8s are coming past him and stuff. I mean, Daniel is phenomenal. Dude, if you're out there and you're listening to this, I love you, bro.
And that's the thing, like a lot of the time you can have, I had this conversation actually with my mate that was helping me with the last seasons that we did also on Ignition. And, the commonality is that you can have the most expensive camera, the most expensive gimbals and equipment. If you don't have the creative ability to either to know what the limitations are or to use just like your on the feet kind of skills to get the shot that you want or to get the creativity that you want, then that means nothing. I mean, we've used the equipment that we use to shoot a lot of the stuff that we do. I mean, it's not expensive. It's not a red camera. It's not the best Sony or the best Canon. We shoot the pretty rudimentary out of the box stuff, but it's just how you use it. It's how you use the tools that you're given. And I think that's what sets a good creator apart from everybody else is that even though you might have the limited resources, it's what you do with it and how creative you come up. I mean, I watch some of these guys on Instagram, even with what they do with their cell phones, like the guy puts it down on like a little mat, and then he like drags it along. And then you see the after shot and you're like, geez, that looks like a $100,000 production.
Yeah. Dude, we've been going for about an hour and a half now.
Yeah. When the good things roll, bro, the good things roll.
A quick funny story. I went to shooting Rod Shop season 1. I went to Speed Week and take a camera guy with him, Riaz, with me. And man, it was hectic. 2 days drive there, cars breaking down. We get to the pan and there's no water, and and driving back, we almost kill ourselves a few times. It was a best road trip ever. World's best destination. And that was the last episode I got out. That was episode 9 for Ignition. Okay. So now I'm driving back from Speed Week, and I am depressed as fuck. No, other words, I am so depressed. I'm so down. Because now I know I had 2 days from getting back to edit 4 days of shooting so I can get it to Ignition. And this is my last episode. And I'm thinking this is the last time I ever do a TV show. I cocked this early, and it's not going to happen. So, and I've got, driving back, I listened to Dave Ferguson. And I've got that song Like Me, Me and the Moon, and everything going through my head. And somehow as I'm driving back, there's the whole, it's weird how this happens, the whole show comes through my head. The whole episode. Okay? I've shot it, so I know what I've got on camera. I haven't seen any footage.
Anything,
But the whole thing starts running through my head. And I remember I got home, and the next day and I'm editing it, and I'm cutting this thing, and I've got the songs ready, I've got everything, and I put the episode out, and the episode goes in. And a few weeks later, I get a phone call from a guy who's now a very close friend of mine, Peter Westcott. Peter was the head of Speed Week. He started Speed Week with Jan, and unfortunately he wasn't there, but we spoke a few times. Anyway, so he phones me. This is just after the episode comes out, and he phones me and he goes, Joe. I'm like, yeah. He goes, thank you. I'm like, what? He says, nothing could explain the feeling of Speed Week as much as the video that you've done. To date, the video that I did for Speed Week apparently got more publicity than anything else. They said that video and how we did it, because I think it was a 9-minute shot, and then I expanded it into the hour thing. They came back and that completely changed everything for me. That thing showed me how powerful doing something on camera could really be. Yeah.
And especially if it's something that you're passionate about, and it's something that you really live, it comes through on the camera with the people. People can connect with that.
Exactly. But listen, we've been going for an hour and a half. Actually, we've been talking for 2 hours because we forgot to press call.
Another half hour.
Dude, but thank you for being on. I think we need to do this. You know what? I actually have a few projects I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I've got collab stuff that I think we should do, and I think we should do that. But right now, I need serious amounts of coffee.
So the coffee machine is busy brewing in the background.
Yeah, I can smell it already. So, dude, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the chat, and yeah, definitely, let's get cracking, man. There's lots to do.
There is, dude. I think I like this. We'll talk about it. This brand building brands in South Africa, telling stories on brands. I've got some stuff on that. So wheels are spinning. This is something we can do. All right, dude.
100%.
Good one. Look after yourself.
Absolute champion. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Joe. Bye.